Dear beautiful people, today I want to share with you another Hot Topics Live podcast with Kia Baker and Gloria Goldberg. We spoke again in depth about the spiritual process, but also about what to expect for this coming year, 2021. Now, there will be a lot of changes in society. Old structures will break down, and the changes in the collective will of course be felt by the individual, since the collective is made out of individuals. This process of unraveling, of revealing truth, of things long hidden and forgotten, will be an interesting year and a challenging year maybe for many of you. If you're curious about it and you enjoy the podcast, please support Gloria and Kia by following the link in the description to their site on Facebook, where their Hot Topics episodes are listed. Maybe leave them a like, leave them a comment, or share their content. Thank you, my friends. Be well.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hot Topics, the show, the podcast where we create, we inspire, and
we transform.
Oh, yeah. This is Gloria Goldberg, the founder of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, PTSD in a holistic way, in a natural way, to always make you feel better. And next to me, like always, my co-host, beautiful friend, Kia Baker.
Hi, I'm Kia. I'm Kia, and I am the creator and host of the Female Veterans Podcast. It is a show about female veteran stories, the real truth as told by the women who experienced it while serving in the military. I am also the creator of another series called Women Warrior Stories, and that's a work in progress, honey. I mean, big time. And that is with the Veterans Channel. And of course, one of my favorite things to do that I do with my time, aside of being a single mom, is to be a success coach, where I'm also kind of like a mom, but to adults at London Real Academy. And if you don't know about London Real Academy, go to YouTube and check out London Real. And or you can go to londonreal.tv online and check it out and see what it is I do. So, and who I do it with, actually. So we have been on vacation.
Yeah, happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year.
I didn't see you from last year.
It feels like forever. Since 2020. What a dumpster fire of a year that was, huh?
Wow. I grew so much. We grew so much. Everybody grew so much. Even people that don't even know how to grow, they grew also.
They were forced into growing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it wasn't all bad. I was very fortunate. So I have been counting my blessings every single night and every single morning, because although there was a lot of like crazy stuff that happened, I officially became single. I officially took control of my entire life. And so that was crazy. And then there were like career changes, and there was good and there was bad, and all of this amid the pandemic. But you can't grow in your comfort zone.
Exactly.
So you gotta experience this stuff in order to stretch your boundaries and find out what you're capable of.
Yeah, when you're struggling is when you see more, because your mind became like a creator. Survival mode kicks in. Okay, what I need to do, what I need to provide, what I'm gonna create to be able to survive. There's a lot of things in place.
Yeah.
And life always shake us to see how we shake. And if we have the vase to be able to maintain that shake, because sometimes the life give you like a
slap you up, right? Well, I will tell you, after being married for almost 14 years, it was huge to figure out that I could just take control of my own life and household and children and really make it work and create something beautiful. So, I mean, it wasn't easy. Obviously, a lot of the things that were happening as we were going through our split up and our conscious uncoupling happened, and we talked about it on Hot Topics last year.
Yes.
And so, if you've been watching the show, then you know that I have really gone through a crazy change over the last year. And you too, honey.
Yes. Yes. Me too. I've been changing a lot.
You look very beautiful today.
Thank you, my dear. You too. I'm just letting grow this gray hair. Let's see when I have it up to here so I can cut it.
Oh, it looks so cute. I love it. And you know, I love it straight. I love it curly too, but you know, I met you with straight hair. So it feels like it's Gloria. And when it's like, oh, it's my old friend.
Yeah, the other one is like a hybrid.
Yeah, right? It's fun. I love that I never know.
The curly hair is the hybrid, like a
Yeah,
mix.
the artist comes out, you know? Yeah,
So,
I love
Kia,
that.
how's the situation right now in your area?
Well, you know, in Washington State where I live, we are in lockdown, but it's not as locked down as other places because we have far less cases now. So, I mean, we're still, I try not to watch the news too much, but I did take a peek yesterday and I've been sort of watching the Georgia runoff election and all of that a little
Yeah.
bit, but just so I can be aware, but I try not to get sucked into that, right? Because it can really affect your energy.
Yes, totally.
And so that being said, things are still open. You can still obviously order food and all of that stuff. We can go to the mall and all of that, but of course we have to exercise precautions. And as you all know, I rarely go anywhere because I have a compromised immune system. So unless I am in desperate need of something, I will order it into my house, which I know is a luxury that a lot of people don't have. So I'm very conscious of that. But yeah, we're hanging in there, and our state is doing all right.
Awesome.
How about Florida?
In our state too, we have cases. Of course, everywhere they have cases. But when you go out, of course, you have to put your mask. You have to be careful. Don't be smart. You need to just be smart. That's it. It's up to you if you wear or not wear it. I don't care. But be smart because there you compromise the life of the people also your life too. Because this situation is real and some people gets very sick and some people don't. So it's a situation like a little bit stressful for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, it's still stressful, but we're hopeful. You know, the vaccines are going around. I am not queuing up to get a vaccine. So, you know, I do believe in science and I understand that people getting vaccinated means that the virus then becomes obsolete, right? Because it doesn't have anyone to
Yeah.
affect. So then that is the goal. But you know, I get nervous about that kind of stuff. You know, I don't buy new electronics the first time it's out, right?
I'm
I don't
allergic.
like
I'm allergic to everything. So no
you
way.
and my son. So I mean, I'm I got to see how this thing plays out, but I'm not in a
Yes.
hurry to I was in the military, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but you get a lot of vaccines in the military. You may know that, but you may not know about me is that I am actually a disabled veteran, and you can't tell it because you can't see it. But after getting some vaccinations, I acquired some illnesses. And so I am not in a hurry to put anything new in my body because I've experienced the downside of it personally. And I know other veterans who have, for example, I did a show actually on the Female Veterans podcast with an actress, Jennifer Marshall. She's been on a lot of stuff. She was in Stranger Things. And she actually ended her military career because of the anthrax vaccine. She got really sick. So I know that it happens. But I think like you said, we have to be cautious. We have to, use our own discernment and do what we feel is best for us, right? For me, I've got to hold off on that.
Me, because my personality is more indoors, means when I'm in my base area house, I'm more in house. I don't like to go out too much. I like, I like the outdoors, more nature. But I'm not a party girl or a person that needs to have a lot of people around to be happy or a lot of friends. Yes, I do have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that I need to be all the time with them. So for me, in that case, it's not that bad. But I feel bad for the people that really need that kind of interaction with other people.
Thank God for technology.
Yes.
But it's not the same. Like sometimes you just want to hug.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. How you feel a kiss through here.
Right.
You don't feel anything.
No. I didn't feel that. It looked.
You don't feel that?
I don't feel it. I felt it in my heart.
You catch it.
My son does this. He goes, and if I don't do it back, he'll be like, "Don't break my heart." My little one, my 5-year-old.
So Kia, before we bring our guests, so how when you are single and you're dating online, what is how you kiss online, in Zoom kiss, good night. You have a French kiss there too.
So first of all, I don't have an honest answer for that, but I think that Zoom should create an icon. So you know how you could clap and you could use the emojis in Zoom. They should make a kiss icon. Then you could just put it on the screen when you're ending your date, and that way.
Just imagine that is so bad. Like, can you give me a kiss? You're French.
Oh no. No. I don't know if you can do all that. That just would be very, very strange. Anyway, let us know if you're watching and you happen to see this and you happen to know how you date on Zoom. Please let us know. Write it in the comments.
I think you have to have something like that in Zoom so you can clean the camera.
If you have a lot of dates.
Imagine that. 1 second, please. 1 second.
You need some disinfectant.
Exactly. Palo Santo.
Girl, I have no idea. I don't even begin to know because you know that I'm not dating. So I'm not dating at this time. I have to just focus on my business right now.
Right.
I'm too busy working to be dating. I guess if the right person showed up in my path and piqued my interest, I might be persuaded. But at this time, I have a lot on my plate. So
I can't wait for you to describe your experience in Zoom. You're like, how was your Zoom kiss?
I don't know, girl. You'll be the first to know when I have a Zoom date then. You know what you could do? You could send your husband to work and have a lunch date.
There you go. Yes.
And then see how it works. And then let me know. So I'm prepared.
That's a good idea.
Oh my God. So you know what? I could laugh with you for hours. But we have a guest in the green room.
Yes. Hola, Diana. How are you?
So our guest that we have today, you guys all know him if you've been watching along, okay? And you know that we love Julian, the spiritual coach. And he is here today so we can freestyle, okay? We are going to do some rhymes. No, We're not. I'm so bad at freestyling. But I will tell you this. My little brother is Sin Marcellus, and he's kind of famous on the East Coast in the north part. He's from Philly. He is a very, very talented artist, and he does hip hop. And you can catch him on IGTV, I think every week. Look for Sin Marcellus on Instagram, and you can see him perform. He's getting back into it, and he just had a baby, so he's getting back into it.
Wow.
And he's starting to rhyme, and he's amazing. He is a lyrical genius, and I'm not just saying that because he's my little brother. He really is talented, and you should check it out for yourself. You don't want to miss it if you love hip hop. But anyway, our guest Julian is here, and he is an amazing spiritual coach. He is an extraordinary human being, and he has been on our show several times, helping people, answering questions, and just guiding them through their journey. So let's bring him out.
There he is.
Hey, there we go.
Hello, Julian.
Well, and now I have to let go of the temptation to speak about one of my biggest loves in life, and that's hip hop. So we're gonna ignore that topic, even though it's it itches, you know. you kind of want to drop a few famous one-liners here and there. Maybe it happens. But aside from that, you see, you introduced actually the whole show with a few buzzwords, I would say, that are very important right now. Yeah, growth. We had growth. We had transformation. What else did we had? Leaving the comfort zone. Yeah, nobody's in a comfort zone right now, or very few beings are. And you had a very, let's say, challenging year of transformation, 2020, right? And everybody's like asking what's going to be next. And we are a little bit in the situation that those of you who already have a spiritual practice, who already have been, let's say, inspired by different sources of information. So not mainstream sources of information, not news media, not politicians, but you have had spiritual coaches coming on, people with, let's say, powerful, authentic experiences that could open you up to a higher reality, so to speak. So you are more prepared, but a lot of people are not prepared. And what we're seeing right now, what happens on an individual basis, we're all going in as a caterpillar into the cocoon to become the butterfly. But if you don't know that at the end there's a butterfly, the only thing that you experience is from your confusion, wow, I'm in a cocoon and I'm getting digested while being aware of it. That's how people feel right now. So societies, old structures are breaking down. The banking system will struggle. The political system will break down. A lot of things that are of an older reality, of an older energy, will break down. And initially, it seems like the breakdown of our comfort zones, of our safety, of what we're used to. But so the society as a whole, not only individually goes into the cocoon, but as a collective. That means all the old structures that are outdated, that have been imposing limitations on us, they need to go. And when you're in that transformation period from one reality into another reality, so to speak, the in-between is subjectively ugly. And the reason it is subjectively ugly, because you only are allowed to enter a higher dimension when you clear out the old energies that you have accumulated in a lower dimension. Otherwise, you can't pass through the door. And humanity as such is now asked to take on that responsibility, stop having a victim identity and start transforming their lives. And some of us have done it consciously for a few years already, preparing for it. And some are just, let's say, dumbstruck, shocked by the situation because they were so attached to a matrix, to a way of living, very attached to a belief, to a conditioning since they were children. And to them, the world is falling apart. And in a way, it is.
Sometimes things fall apart to come back together, right?
Yes.
Exactly. And this is what every yogi, every mystic, every Buddhist master, everybody who has a deep mystical practice can tell you. The process is constantly being disintegrated and being put together. And subjectively, that is painful. And that is why I often see that people when they come to me, some are ready for the path and some are not ready for the path, because some are looking to gain, let's say, comfort and safety through the spiritual practice. Forget about that. That's not going to happen.
Sorry. I'm laughing because I've experienced that.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you cannot grow when you want to be safe, because when you want to be safe, what are you? Afraid. When you're afraid, you're in a state of avoidance. So what Gloria spoke about before, about survival instinct, that is the key. Joe Dispenza speaks about that too. Are you in a creator mode, or are you in a survival mode? And survival mode is animal intelligence. That means you're acting from instinct and from conditioning. You're not acting from your higher cognitive functions. You're not acting from intuition. You're not acting from creativity. And this is what needs to happen in order to transform your life so it is a match to the higher reality. And let's say those who previously had a spiritual practice in the Western society, they felt like a fish out of water. Yeah, or like a beached whale. But now it's the opposite. The energy on the planet is increasing through those who have had a spiritual practice already and have increased their energy. They suddenly feel they're part of the ocean. But those who haven't had the practice, and this is the Mars consciousness, they suddenly feel beached. And now we need to have a lot of compassion for people who are not prepared for what's going on, because they don't know how to creatively respond to life. They only know how to respond to life from biology and from programming in their nervous system. Because nobody was teaching them how to be intuitive, how to develop a psychic sense, how to allow yourself to be inspired, to have creative answers to life that bring about your soul desire, not your ego's desire. Your ego's desire is safety, comfort, being liked. Throw all of that out of the window, because it creates so much limitations and prisons, doesn't serve us. So all of that needs to go, so the soul desire can manifest, and the human imagination is too limited to even imagine what the soul desire could be like. And you can only start tuning into that if you get over the survival instinct. And that takes practice. And many haven't had that practice. And that's what we see right now. When people are rioting or they're choosing violence over taking responsibility, that's what you see. They're acting from conditioning. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So, what are some steps people can take to begin to shift this?
Well, the very first thing is to not avoid your emotions. Because this whole society is built on making humans a product. So when we were children and we got programmed in school of how to be prepared for society, it wasn't about preparing us for society, but it was about making us fit society. So we were trained to be obedient. We were at some point trained to write CVs, to wear suits, to behave in a certain way in order to get a job. You all have heard this. We all were raised up. And to get a job is the argument about safety. But it's not about fulfilling your heart's desire. Now, here's the thing. A lot of us were very upset in school, for example, as teenagers, as young adults, because we felt maybe we didn't fit in, or we didn't want to submit to the matrix, but we were all bombarded with news, with propaganda, with fear stories about constantly, it's constantly about economy, survival, nonstop being bombarded with that. So it puts human consciousness into a continuous fear state. But then your emotions come up because your soul doesn't accept that. It doesn't accept a limited existence. It wants to break through the conditioning. It wants to break down the programming. And how do we see that? For example, as a very interesting fact, panic attacks. What are panic attacks? Well, I have sometimes been teaching people a certain type of breath work that I use hyperventilation in order to increase the energy of someone. Yeah, hyperventilation exercises. So they increase in energy and they can access their subconscious and they can transmute traumas. What happens in a panic attack? A hyperventilation. Why is that? Because the soul is trying to break through the ego. And when you are in an ego state, you fight the panic attack and the tension remains. So what I'm saying is, when we have physical symptoms of panic, of anxiety, of fear, it is because we're not following our intuition, but we're following the program, the conditioning, the software, the propaganda. This is what we're following. And our soul knows this is not what we want to do. We want to be free. We don't want to be limited. And the soul tries to break through. But all of us have been made scared of our own souls. So when intuition happens, you all start questioning yourself. Have I imagined that? Because you have been gaslit from a very early age on. Every time you had an intuitive sense or an emotion, maybe your parents or maybe teachers said, no, you're making this up. This is not real. This is not reality. So basically the confidence was taken away. And then you start mistrusting your own ability. So when people have emotions that they perceive as negative, they need to understand they are only there because we're out of balance. So we need to first allow the negative emotion, the crying, the breaking down, the feeling miserable. And you need to start accepting those type of feelings because they're actually serving you. They're telling you, hey, you're not living the life you want to live deep down. And the majority of people has avoided those type of feelings through consuming, through distraction, entertainment, substances, sex. And again, nothing wrong with all of that. But if you're attached to it, if you're addicted to it, you live in a prison. So avoidance is what keeps you trapped in a limited state of being. So first you need to accept the human being that you experience. And when you accept the human being, all its fears, all its unloving beliefs about itself or others, when you start accepting the human being, the mind starts calming down, and then you become receptive to soul. But you can only do this when you don't avoid. And because a lot of humans have been avoiding, we now have a situation in the world where the world is basically forced to transform. People have been locked down. Why? Because they haven't done their shadow work. They haven't taken care of their karma, so they needed to be ripped out of their usual environment, so they're forced to reflect because they didn't do it based on their free will. They rejected their own soul consciousness, so they needed to have a catalyst provided to them. Then we have the COVID situation, we have the lockdown situation. The old world doesn't work anymore. More of consuming, of distraction doesn't work. So now people feel negative. They think that the world is wrong. No, they're just becoming conscious of the stuff they haven't taken care of. So acceptance is the key. Not to avoid, but to feel into it, to give it space. And once you pass that hurdle, all those emotions start transforming and inspiration can occur.
Wow. So, like, and when you talk about the panic attack, what you described was correct because I did have in my life 2 panic attacks, but I remember very clear the second one. And the second one, like you described, you don't have control of your body. Like you act like your instincts going like running like a horse with no stopping. And in my case, I was trying to connect that with my brain, and my body was like off, we don't want to listen to the brain. We want to be off, and we're gonna start not breathing, and we start shutting down. And it's because I didn't have the control. So it's very important what you said, that we have to have control of the things that we do in our mind to be able to go through this life that we're going through. Because for some people it's very, very hard. For some people it's hard. Sometimes for other people it's not that hard, and so and so and so. But like you said, all this kind of stuff, you need to be prepared for what is coming always. But combining the survival mode with your mind at the same time.
Well, I wouldn't say combine the survival mode with your mind. The issue, let's say, why people are struggling, because their mind is interconnected with their survival mode.
Right.
It's
Okay.
about getting out of the survival mode. Well, how can I get out of the survival mode? By understanding the only reason I have negative emotion is because I have beliefs about life that are judgmental. So if, for example, again, if we take the caterpillar metaphor, if nobody has educated about like the human existence, kind of like a caterpillar, and you're here to transform, you're here to realize yourself as a divine being. If you don't know that, when you go into the transformation stage and you go into the cocoon, you panic. You are in survival mode because you don't know what's happening. And that's because you have beliefs about what's happening. Think about it. In a panic attack, what do people believe? Oh, I am dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. I am having a heart attack. I mean, but this is the ego fighting the soul that says, I want to stay limited and I don't want the in-breath, which is an increase of energy, liberate me from my mind because I'm attached to my mind. And what do I want? I want control. See, your ego wants control. So when you speak about control, I'm not meaning to be strict here, but it's very important to point that out. Everybody who seeks control is in survival mode. They are in fear mode. They are in the lower consciousness mode. People think, for example, a spiritual master has amazing control. It couldn't be further from the truth. A spiritual master gives up on all control. And he gives up on all control to such a deep level that his soul takes over. And his soul speaks through him or through her and acts through him and through her. So when that happens, the soul, if you will, is in control, but not the human. But if you act from survival mode, you're trapped in the human and you see it from a limited human belief. Oh, I got to take care of my money. I got to like fix my relationship. No. It's all survival mode. Stop trying to fix shit. Sit down, shut up, breathe. Clear your mind so you become receptive and inspired by your own soul. But the need to fix stuff is still the workings of the ego. So when you try to control stuff, you're stuck. People came to me sometimes, 11 years of Zen practice. And I asked them, why did you think you didn't have a breakthrough? And their answer was, I need more hard work. Instead of letting go and accepting themselves. Why did they think they did more hard work? Because they had to believe they're not lovable, they need to work harder. But their soul, without any sort of prerequisite or condition, would immediately take over if they would allow. But they think they don't deserve it, so they need to work harder. Yeah, then you can practice Zen for 50 years with that attitude. You're not going to get enlightened like that. So this is very important. Give up on control, people. What do you hear in news media? It's constantly fight poverty, fight the virus, fight ignorance. It's constantly fight. Only cowards want to fight. Only cowards want to pretend the energy issues is outside of them. And they need to fight something. When has fighting something ever solved anything? When has fighting the mind solved anything? Fighting the mind creates depression. Trying to control the mind creates depression. What about allowing the mind and stop messing with it? Stop trying to use the mind as a tool for something that it's not made for controlling your life. That's why our minds get so upset and angry and depressed, because we're trying to find the big philosophical answers to life through mind. Instead of surrender, instead of allowing, instead of breathing and getting out of the survival mode, so we become conscious and soul aware. So the idea of control is completely misleading. Yes, it's very important. Stop controlling stuff. That's your conditioning. Your conditioning says you need to be in control. And then you are in a state of fear and avoidance, instead of in a state of acceptance, compassion, wisdom. Wisdom comes from allowing, not from control.
So just
from watching without bias. Yes.
Just let it be everything. Like let it be. If it's gonna break, it's gonna break. It's gonna fix, it's gonna fix. It's gonna fall, it's gonna fall. It's gonna whatever. Like take life just like that and live every moment and see what happens.
Yes. And think about what people say when they have a panic attack. Oh, I'm afraid I'm losing my mind. Yeah, that's the point. You want to lose your mind because the mind, how it has been programmed, is a limitation. Keeps you in a prison. And then you have a panic attack because your soul tries to increase an energy vortex that breaks you out of the prison of the mind. Then you're like, no, I want to hold on to mind. I am my thoughts. I'm afraid when my thoughts stop, I'm going to die. It's all the ego babbling. And this is what stops people from realization. They don't want spirituality to wake up. They want spirituality to make their ego feel better. But if it works, you drop out of the ego. So you basically view life from an immortal awareness and not from a mortal shell that is afraid for its survival. How limiting is that? It's a difference between binary or a quantum computer. What do you want to have? Like ones or zeros or quantum computer? Yeah, consider that.
Okay. Now, I have a question. So, as we go through this process and we decide, we're all of us watching here today, that we are shifting out of survival mode, right? And now we want to experience our best possible life experience while we're here in this form, in this meat suit, if you will. And how do we do that, Julian? How do we shift from this this ego mind and this desire to want to break out of that to just being in the present and flowing and having our best possible experience?
Well, first you need to be curious. And this is something that we have been trained not to do. See, I often experienced this as a child and in school, in high school, for example, when I had questions to a teacher and they couldn't answer the question, they started attacking me because they felt, I don't know, exposed, unsure, ashamed, whatever. But I would often ask very inconvenient questions in school. I remember getting bullied for it and all that. It's all good though. So the thing is, we're not being encouraged to be curious. We're being encouraged to swallow, to shut up, and to act out what we have been fed, and anything other is not tolerated. So what we basically need to do is to start doubting this very reality that you experience. Often I had people coming to me from an academic background, scientists, for example, and they would try to attack this spiritual thing that they felt is a threat to their science identity, if you will. And then they ask me, when I have visions and when I talk to certain spiritual teachers telepathically, they ask me, how do you know it's real? And I ask them, how do you know when you walk down the street that it's real? They suddenly get very nervous. Yeah, well, I feel a street under my feet. Yeah, they are atoms, they are force fields, they're like this. And I said, all right. But what if, let's say, you were born in a society that doesn't know wireless, and you have a computer that can tune into wireless because it's a specific frequency and you have a password for it. Then you tell everybody there is this invisible force field that has information and they have a password and they can tune into it. They'll tell you you're crazy. So when you give someone who is a physicist an answer based on physics, but they get a little bit nervous because they suddenly can sense the possibility. So what I'm trying to tell you, when you look at life and you wake up in the morning, you have a breakfast, now you have a cup of coffee in front of you, yeah, here's the cup, you put it in front of your table, and you're like, your mind is telling you that's a cup and that's a coffee. How do you know? That's an idea, that's a concept. So we are being fooled by appearance and we are being fooled by the narrative in the head. So everything that you see in daily life, you think you know what it is because you have a story about it in your head. You think you know what a tree is. But if you could psychically tune into a tree and have a communication with the tree and see what the tree sees, your idea of tree would be completely different. But you say, well, it's just a tree, or it's just a dog, or it's just a car, or it's just a forest. And all this just that is a reductionism of what it actually is. So we stop investigating because we think we know. Oh, I have some fancy words. How many people speak about astral travel? How many have astral traveled? Oh, I know what it is. It's astral travel. I have words for it. Oh, I know what it is. It is gravity. I have words for it, so I understand it. Do you? So doubt, you question your understanding. Question the answers that your mind is giving. I give you an example. At some point, when I started slowly developing psychic ability, I would sit in meditation, and I would see, when I sit on the grass, I would see waves coming from my body moving through the grass, as if a drop of water falls into a pond and creates ripples. And I saw the fabric of space-time rippling in meditation. I would look at plants and they became transparent when I looked at them. So when I started experiencing that, I doubted the very physical reality. It became more and more a hologram for me, like you would play a video game. So in a sense, there was a disassociation from the idea of Julian that was programmed in society. Because my mind was trapped in space-time the same way my body was trapped in space-time. So when I stopped believing my mind, when I stopped believing to be a body, my reality started shifting. But when you believe to be a mind and a body, you're constantly in survival instinct because you try to protect this thing. You think when it dies, you die. And then you stop questioning the reality because you're constantly in survival instinct. You don't ask a very profound question that any child is asking. I remember when I was, I think, 7 years old, I had a friend and we were sitting in a room playing. And then I said to my friend, let's try to imagine nothing. And we couldn't. Every time we would close our eyes, we would either see something completely black or completely white, because our minds were incapable of imagining nothing. And we started laughing. And when grown-ups see that, they don't understand it, but we were posing one of the most important philosophical questions. Because if there is something, it needs to be nothing. What is that? What is nothing? And when you look at the world of appearances, you need to understand, in order to experience something, there needs to be nothing in between. So when you listen to music, between notes, there's nothing. Otherwise, you wouldn't hear melody. You wouldn't experience thoughts if there wouldn't be gaps between the thoughts. So this nothingness is the key to realization. Because at some point, when you start accepting your mind, when you accept the human conditions, when you accept that you're miserable, when you accept that you're desperate, when you accept that you're frustrated, when you accept all of that, suddenly you calm down and the gaps between the thoughts become wider. And at some point, there are no thoughts. Only awareness is left, nothingness. And that's the moment of liberation. This is the realization. The Hindus call it moksha or samadhi. The Japanese call it satori. It's a moment of enlightenment, when the lightning strikes and you suddenly realize, oh, all appearance is deductible except the awareness that is having the experience. Experience constantly change. Physical experience change, but awareness never. Yes.
So Julian, question: the enlightenment happens all the time, but for people understand the enlightenment, also, I'm gonna give an example, is when you see your traumas from outside with no pain, just with not with joy, but with like to understanding that was a lesson for you to learn. That's an enlightenment.
That's a very helpful way. You could say you're being enlightened every day, because every day, if you allow it, your consciousness is expanding. Yeah, this is what you spoke about in the beginning. Yeah, to get rid of those borders, to expand those borders of the idea of I, or the idea of self. You're constantly expanding that until it includes everything. That's the key. So We have these small enlightenments every day
Yes.
where you're being offered expansion, but the ego refuses the expansion. That is what you need to figure out, because the ego believes that there are evil events, bad events, and then you're not open to what those events are trying to teach you, what they're trying to make you wake up to. And I remember that for me, the realization came through loss, through things being taken away. And from the ego perspective, loss is bad. But only illusion was being taken away from me. Nothing real was being stolen. Only false identity, unhealthy attachments, addictions I didn't need. All of that was taken away. But when it's taken away, you feel like you're being robbed of your identity. Exactly. Because the identity is the prison. So at some point you are beyond identity. And that is an enlightened state of being, is to not act from identity, not from conditions that exist in space-time. You don't act from your nervous system. You don't act from your mind. You don't act from your traumas. You don't act from your conditionings. You are beyond those conditions. But you need to figure that out. But as long as you wrestle with the conditions, you can't transcend them. You perpetuate them. So if you're trying to gain control, if you're trying to fix yourself, you're trying to repair yourself, you're still thinking something is wrong with the experience, something is wrong with the human, but it's not. It's a learning hologram. If you will, the sphere of humanity, this, if you could call it a subcosmos within the cosmos, this human experience is a free will experiment. And the only reason we have negativity is so we have free will, because negativity offers you free will. Because if there would be no negativity, the only thing that you could choose is your God self. So we made a free will experiment where we separate from our God self, where we give ourselves amnesia, so we have choice. And why do we do this? So we can use the physical experience as a mirror and achieve individualization. Wisdom through experience. And this is what happens. The experience offers you self-knowledge. If someone, for example, is afraid and they're practicing boxing and they have a boxing fight, when they're in that fight, they'll learn a lot about themselves. So they're using the physical experience to gain in awareness. And that is the key. You're all gaining in awareness. You're using the physical experience as a catalyst to become more self-aware and individualized. But at some point you have done this enough, and then the return call is sounded back to the higher intelligence that is beyond negative and positive. And we suffer because we are rejecting that call. We're saying, I have regrets, I have shames, I have guilt, I need more human experience because I need to fix things. A master doesn't fix shit. A master accepts.
And then when you drag for many years one story, you drag it like happens to me, there, and you don't let it go. You're not gonna have a space for enlightenment, because this is retaining you, the angry, the hate, the all this kind of stuff that suppress you to not letting you go to a higher level.
And the human can't go to a higher level. That's important to understand. You see, enlightenment is not about improving the human. Enlightenment is about ending the human existence. Remembering who you are, because none of you are human. You have a human suit, you have a human appearance. And you identified with it. That's why you have the story in the head. I'm like, I don't know, I'm like 80 kilos heavy, I have blonde hair, I have blue eyes. Arbitrary. Completely arbitrary. So what keeps you really limited, again, are the beliefs. Right? So the beliefs is, for example, when I have a trauma, the belief is, oh, the trauma is bad. And the human, because of the human subjectivity, cannot see it from a higher dimensional perspective. And the higher dimensional perspective would be liberating. So what do we need to do? Sit in meditation, accept everything within the human, the whole psyche, all the frustrations, all the trauma, and accept that we can't accept it. And then at some point, your intuition will kick in. That means your higher self will come in and starts explaining to the human why you can't let go. So your higher intelligence is going to explain to you why, for example, a trauma was a gift. What the trauma was teaching you, for example, about compassion, about wisdom, about ownership or sovereignty. And then it's turned into wisdom. And the moment it's turned into wisdom, the negativity drops away and your energy increases and you become more psychic until you are beyond human. But it cannot be done with this modern psychotherapy way of thinking people need fixing. There is pathology. There is no pathology. It's nonsense. There's nothing wrong with people. There's nothing wrong with traumas. There's nothing wrong with being upset. But if you want to transcend it, you cannot do it with the mind. You cannot do it with the human programming because it's too limited. So you basically need to give your higher self the permission to intervene on your behalf. But when you have amnesia, you don't even know that a higher self exists. You don't ask. Right? And there are many people who ask me why, for example, a higher force doesn't intervene on their behalf, because free will is divine. And even God doesn't override your free will, because free will is also the will of God. So even God wouldn't override your free will. And if you attach to guilt and shame and unloving beliefs and want to keep that identity, you can't be liberated. So it's not about fixing you. It's about accepting that you don't need fixing.
So I have a question before
Yes.
you go on. You were talking about higher self, and I was just thinking about when I was young, and I was very religious. I'm not religious now, you know that, but I used to pray a lot, right? And so, as I was taught, and I would pray to God for whatever help or whatever I needed. Essentially, I would ask God
to pass a math test.
whatever I needed. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, essentially, you know, I had a difficult childhood, as you know, and I prayed a lot for help out of that situation. But in general, people pray. People who are religious pray, and they ask for things. Now, we've had this conversation in private, but I thought it would be a good time to share that with everyone as to like why your prayers sometimes go unanswered and why does it seem like sometimes they are.
I love that question.
Right. And that is so powerful because and again, I don't care if people believe me. Find out for yourself if what I'm saying is true. So for me, having psychic contact is something that happens daily. So if I have a question, I might sit down in meditation, and then enlightened masters, they're visiting me, and I can see them as a holographic projection, and they start talking to me on certain topics. And when it came to the topic of prayer, what they said is the following thing. They said, when people pray, they are so noisy, they are so full of themselves that they can't be filled. So we don't answer their calls because they're not capable of receiving. But when someone becomes very quiet, very still, then we get interested because that someone can be taught. Why do they say that? Because people are praying for a better life for their ego. I want a car so I can go anywhere I want because I want my ego to be more comfortable. I want 10 millions in the bank so I don't have to worry about money because I want my ego to be more comfortable. I want to be super handsome so I can get all the sexual attention that I want because I want my ego to be more comfortable. But what they're not asking for is free me from the ego.
Yes.
And this is why their calls are not being answered, because the masters know that someone who is asking for such things is too spiritually immature to receive teaching. because they wouldn't accept it. They are using their free will to try to enhance their ego. So they are basically excluding divine intervention. Because divine intervention would try to get you out of this world and not to give you something from this world.
But Julian, what about someone who is homeless and they're praying for a home, or someone who's a child in a child abuse or a domestic violence situation and they're praying to be saved? What about that?
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you know the karmic circumstances why someone would be homeless or why someone would be in a child abuse situation? So we're guessing, right?
Karma a child would have created to be in a child abuse situation.
Well, let's say if someone is in a child abuse situation or if someone is homeless, we say it's bad. I would try to answer that more objectively. You can say someone is suffering. And now I ask you, is suffering bad?
Mm-mm.
It feels like it to the person who's experiencing it.
At the moment.
At the moment they're experiencing it.
It hurts, right?
Yes.
Subjectively, it hurts. So we can have compassion for the fact that it hurts.
Right.
But the thing is, many situations in people's life exist not because they have been bad. That's an ego story. Yeah, the idea of being a sinner, like in Christianity, or those Buddhists who don't understand Buddhism and say karma is a law of punishment. It's all a big bunch of bollocks. We all are conscious creators. And we have used our energy in a certain way for several lifetimes. And that is being reflected back to us. Think about someone, for example, who in some lifetime was very rich and had no compassion for poor people. What would an immortal soul desire to learn?
Compassion.
Exactly. How do you learn this best? By experiencing it.
Giving the opposite experience.
Exactly. Shifting perspective.
So, I have another question then.
Of
course. You know how I love to go deep with you, Julian. So then let's say, for example, there was a little girl who was born into a dysfunctional family and experienced a lot of abuse as a small child, neglect, abandonment, all of the worst things, for argument's sake. So what I'm understanding is that perhaps in a previous life, this little girl was a spoiled princess who perhaps desired to have another kind of experience. Her soul desired to have another type of experience when she incarnated in this lifetime?
Probably.
Because comfort is what stops you from expanding. Right? So I know several cases of people who, for example, they were famous in a lifetime before, and they were for example cruel when they were famous. So they needed, for example, the experience of not being in control, of not being in power, in order to learn, for example, humility.
Interesting.
But let's go a level deeper, because let's say I'm often receiving such information with very specific people about specific topics, but we can also speak about what I'm experienced with regards to my own karma and my own journey. So without saying too much, I have sufficient memory of being a spiritual teacher in India, but also being a spiritual teacher in Japan. Yeah, one time in the 19th century in India, and in the 13th century in Japan. And these memories are very specific. So in India, I came from a certain yogic tradition, and what I did in Japan was basically bringing Buddhism to Japan, and later it was brought into the world. So I had basically this function of a pioneer. And interestingly, in this lifetime, I wasn't born into a spiritual family. I was born in the West. I wasn't born in the East. And I had to go through a lot of trauma because my energy was so different to what is happening in the West, what energy is accepted in the West. So as a child, because my energy was not a match to this society, I experienced great struggle. And recently, I was sitting in meditation, And a certain spiritual teacher from India came to me through telepathy. And he said the difference why I was born in the West, because they needed someone who would know how the Westerner thinks, how the Westerner feels, how the Westerner experiences it. So basically, I took the deep dive. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump out of the plane into the Western identity, into the Western experience, break out of the ego, and then I know how to talk to the Westerner, to serve the Westerner getting out of their ego. And I need to have the education and the language, and I needed to know what it feels like. If I would have been born in India and traveled to the West, I would not be able to communicate as effectively as I can right now. So all this hardship was preparation to be able to communicate such knowledge by being able to relate to a society that is in a certain state of consciousness and energy. So you could say from a perspective of ego, well, that was a miserable childhood. But all this discomfort made me grow, made me break out, made me toughen up, made me evolve. So when I look back at those memories right now, they don't carry any pain, because I use them as a catalyst for transformation. That's the key. So there is no bitterness, there's no regret.
So earlier you said that when you were growing up, you were kind of curious in school, and you were bullied, you were different, okay? But what you said after that is, it's all good.
Yeah.
Said it really quickly, it's all good. And so I just wanted to highlight that as sort of like punctuation on what you're saying, is that these traumas that we experience, and some of us are experiencing right now, I just want to say that I know that it's difficult right now, or it was difficult when you were experiencing it, but this is a catalyst for growth and wisdom and compassion. And so it might not be all good now, but it will be, is my point.
Well, yes. And the enlightenment or the realization is actually a step, let's say, it's even more simple than that. It's not the realization that it will be good, but it is a realization that it is good right now. But you cannot have that realization from human perspective, because from the human perspective, it's sometimes tragic. Mm-hmm. It's sad. It's overwhelming, subjectively a lot. So you need to understand the human can't escape. So you need to accept that you cannot escape. Yeah, from this experience as a human. So you need to be more than human to escape. And this is why prayers often don't get answered, because the imagination of the people is too limited. Again, they just want a better life for their ego. But maybe you are having a tough life because you have a bright light, and you need to learn how to shine it in difficult situations. And maybe you have a tough life because you have an artist inside you, and maybe you have a tough art teacher. You might not like the teacher, and sometimes that teacher is very strict. But maybe the teacher is strict because the teacher has a lot of compassion for you, because knows you have a bright light. So often the teacher is not necessarily a person, but a life situation, a challenge. So basically, you're being asked to realize, as an ego, there is no better life. There might be comfort, there might be safety. But if you look at people, for example, in Hollywood, who have millions and millions on their bank account, how many of them are depressed? How many of them are on medication? Why? Because they're lacking meaning. Because when you fulfill all the needs of the ego, you realize you're still not satisfied. Because only spirit can satisfy you. Nothing else can satisfy you. You can have some pleasure. You can enjoy some nice food. You can enjoy awesome sex. You can enjoy racing a car. You can enjoy many things. But you only can truly enjoy it without being addicted to it and being trapped by it if you know you're more than the physical experience. So you need to stop asking for an improvement of the physical experience. Ask for something much greater. Ask for enlightenment. And people don't ask that.
When I was kidnapped, I remember I said in one of those desperation moments, I said, "Listen, God, I know I'm here. I have no the power to get out anywhere. Let me leave, because if you let me leave, I will do whatever you want me to do, whatever you want me to do in this world." And that's it. I didn't say anymore. And see today I'm talking about what happens to me, about depression and anxiety, and helping people through my experience of life to be able to feel better, because I know it's very hard to move traumas. All kind of traumas are very hard to move, and if you're not mature enough or you're not aware enough, it's also more harder to do it. And some people don't have the guidance or the resources to have like maybe the opportunity like Kia or me we have, that we know all these beautiful people, that we able to grow with them and have those experience. But I remember when I was kidnapped, that's what I said. I was like I let my ego go, and I said, you know what, whatever, I'm done here. And see what I'm here today after 23 years.
But isn't that amazing? When you kind of accept defeat.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's really a defeat from the ego's perspective. Every time the ego's not in control, it's a story about defeat. And then we create guilt. It's like, why am I in this situation? Have I sinned? Have I screwed up? But the interesting thing is, how can you teach something without having experienced it?
It's very difficult because you don't know the experience, how it feels, and at the moment I just liberate my ego and say is what it is when I start the light coming out in through me, and something came on me and told me, you need to survive, you need to break the heart of these kidnappers. That's what I did. And I'm not a person that have like a master in my head and like something different like everybody else. I was in a situation like very hard for everybody, and I remember that I started breaking the hearts of their kidnappers. And then after that, when I got released, I just was so happy to be out that I don't want to talk about anything that happens to me in the past. And I was just moving forward. But it takes a big toll from you to realize all that in when you are so young too.
Yes, but then look at it. You wouldn't have asked for that, or you wouldn't have been willing to surrender, and you wouldn't have been willing to listening to something higher than your mind if you wouldn't have been in this situation.
Yes.
So the situation gave birth to it. You cannot separate the situation, the situation of despair and hopelessness and terror. You cannot separate that situation from surrendering and asking for higher guidance. So what I'm saying is, people don't surrender because they're full of pride. Mm-mm. So, for example, if people ask to be loved or ask to be liked or ask to have a comfortable life, they have not this divine intervention, for the very simple reason that what they're asking for is not divine intervention. It is in holding on to the old, but in order to have the divine intervention, you need to let go of the old, of the expectations, of the programs, of the beliefs. So often extreme situations trigger that in people, that they suddenly go beyond the human, that they do things that they never know they could do. And they would always say like the following thing: I saw myself from third person perspective. Because they were stepping out of the ego identity. So at some point you realize, and this is something for the mystics or for the yogis out there, when you sit in meditation, that you do that, let's say that things appear to happen to you, that you suddenly see energy, move energy with your mind, have psychic experiences, but you're not doing it. The person is not doing it because the person can't do it. That is the key here. Every time we think the human needs to do it, we're actually in resistance. We're actually in resistance to divine intervention. And if we want the human to be comfortable, what we're actually an enemy to is growth. So when you give the divine a blanco check, yeah, you have a wide open disclaimer. So for example, for a while, I would wake up in the morning and I would sit down, if you will, in prayer, and I would send out certain intentions. And I would send out the intention every morning. I only seek complete enlightenment. Nothing else will suffice. So I gave the universe basically full permission to bring everything to me that would rip me out of the illusion. So I was setting myself up for what you could call a fire of purification. And that hurts like hell. It does. Because then everything that you're afraid of will come to you. Because the higher dimensions will try to teach you how to go beyond your fear. And if you avoid your fear, you can't do that. You'll be a slave to your fear. So you need to face your fear in order to transcend it. And this is why people, when they speak about they want enlightenment, they don't want enlightenment. They want a better life for their ego, but they don't want to drop their ego. Because dropping your ego means you face everything you're afraid of. And an enlightened master is utterly fearless because there is no stone that the master left unturned. Looked into every dark hole, into the deepest shitter that they ever were in. They're investigating all of that with a curiosity, with a humility. And this burns away the ego. But it's very painful.
My mom.
Wow. Yeah. Very similar in appearance.
They're gorgeous. Gorgeous.
All right. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. When we're asking for enlightenment, it will be painful. But it will be temporarily painful.
Yes.
You get rid of the old pains, but you're not creating new ones. But if you're not asking for enlightenment, if you're not having a spiritual practice, if you don't do shadow work, if you're not meditating, what happens is that you live in an unconscious state. That means you accumulate more pain. So basically, when we seek the enlightenment, we rid ourselves of the old dysfunctional energies and we don't create new suffering. But when you're afraid of the painful process of awakening, of being the caterpillar, being dismantled with full awareness of being dismantled and being, let's say, rebuilt into the butterfly, it's a very painful experience. It hurts. But if you are afraid of that, you accumulate infinite pain because you avoid the catalyst. You avoid growing through life. So you get the painful lessons on a loop over and over.
Yes.
Another breakup, another divorce, another job loss, because the traumas keep repeating until you own up. So when you seek enlightenment, you will go through a painful process of transformation, but it's going to lead to a liberation from pain. This might take 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years of practice, maybe several lifetimes. But if you don't get to it, you keep accumulating karma. And the master frees himself from karma, not by undoing the idea of wrongs. There are no wrongs. Ultimately, there are none. But a master starts accepting everything that happened, and through acceptance frees themselves from the karmic ties. Frees themselves from re-experience, because when you accept, you have no regret, and it stops coming at you on a loop. No regret, no desire. No desire, no need for experience. That means no need for time. When you have no need for time, you go beyond time. And that's the awakening. So when you try to repair things, try to fix things, try to improve, you're asking for more time. It means you're asking for more reincarnation, for more human experience. You begin awakening when you say, I'm done with seeking happiness. Because now you seek illumination, which goes beyond happiness, far beyond happiness, a transcendent peace and joy that is beyond happiness, because happiness is temporary. Oh, I have money on my account, now I'm happy. Oh, I don't have money on my account, now I'm unhappy. Oh, I'm not single. Oh, great, I'm happy. Oh, now I'm single. Now I'm unhappy. You see, that's a torture wheel. Because every time you're unhappy, you try to avoid it, you seek happiness, so you get addicted to the world. Instead of saying, I'm done with this rat race, I accept everything that is, and now I'm liberated in this present moment, and that is eternity. Now I stay with my consciousness in eternity, despite me still experiencing a human experience within space-time, but it is no paradox because both is true. And that is the key. The key is not to ask for liberation from your life circumstances. It's about asking to go beyond all circumstance. But for that, you need to stop having pride.
Okay, now we have 1 hour and 14 minutes.
You guys, I know that we've been going for a really long time, but does anyone mind if I ask one final question before we wrap?
Go ahead, of course.
So I'm not sure if this is shifting gears or if it ties in perfectly, but so a couple of weeks ago, Julian, something really cosmic happened for everyone. We entered the age of Aquarius, right? And I know that I'm sure a lot of people may have heard about it, maybe they haven't, but might want to understand what that means. So would you explain that a little bit before we wrap?
Oh, that's a complex one. Yeah, I'm trying not to get excessive here because of time constraints. All right. So let's say what, for example, a yogi does, or a sadhu, or a monk, or any type of mystic, maybe a Sufi in Islam, what they're all trying to do is to increase in energy. Now, every time you increase in energy, you have a dimensional shift. It means you shift into another reality. So every time you do shadow work, you clear trauma out, for example, your vibration increases. Now you attract a reality that is of a higher vibration. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So what, for example, happens for an advanced yogi when he is initiated into the mystical practice of a higher level? He goes, for example, through the Kundalini process. And during that Kundalini process, which is often shown, for example, in the biblical descriptions as the snake whirling up the tree, that's the Kundalini energy going up the spine, to enter the tree of knowledge, so to speak. So when that energy is activated, you have a sudden spike in energy. But then everything that is low energy starts entering the consciousness of the yogi. That means all old traumas, everything he didn't take care of, fears, guilts, shames, unloving beliefs, all this enters consciousness. And it feels subjectively very painful. But this is happening because the higher energy is coming in, and the higher energy says, well, you want to stay in that energy? You can only stay in that energy if you let go of the old energy. So basically, every time you want to go into a higher dimension and you want to go through a door, your energy needs to increase so you can go past that threshold to enter another dimension. But everything that is not a match to that dimension, you will become conscious of when you're trying to pass through the door. That's the dark night of the soul, or the Christians call it the dark valley. Isn't there a prayer in the Bible where it says, "Oh Lord, protect me when I go through the dark valley"?
Yes.
Because that's that experience. When you're about to break through a threshold, you feel miserable. This is when the shadow work happens. Now, this is happening collectively. Now, a yogi has increased his energy individually. But now on this planet, because of the new age, now is the new age, it's the renaissance of spirit. It's a very powerful understanding. Because of the age of Aquarius that's coming right now, the energy on the planet has been increased because within the cosmos, a lot of higher, let's say, existences are sending energy to Earth. So the vibration increases. And now all the humans become conscious of their traumas that they have suppressed. Because they're supposed to enter the higher energy collectively. So what the ego, what the yogi already has done individually, the collective is now being asked to do. And the corona situation, the political situation, the crises, the breakdowns of certain structures in society is the breakdown of the old energy, because we're trying to pass through a gate in order to enter the age of Aquarius. And this is why it seems subjectively brutal right now, because everything that doesn't serve us anymore needs to go. But our egos are attached to it. So they think, well, 2020 was a bad year. Well, was it? Or was it a year of clearing your shit? Was it a year of
Yes.
clearing out your cellar? If you haven't
That's me.
right? And why is that happening? Because it's a preparation for the higher dimension. That will be a renaissance of a compassionate, loving humanity that will overcome duality, that will overcome the ego, but the shadow work needs to be done. So what you do within yourself, clearing your old structures, your old belief structures, the matrix in your mind, is also what needs to happen on a physical level. A breakdown of governments that have been corrupt and abusive. A certain elite, for example, who has been bamboozling the masses for a very long time, they will be exposed through that energy. Think about how many scandals and things have been revealed over the last year. And don't you remember there is also a passage in the Bible? You see, I'm not a Christian. I'm just pointing out the things in the Bible that have a reference to truth. Yeah, there is a statement of all that is hidden shall be revealed. Which means in order to enter the new age, what you have hidden from yourself, or what the society didn't want to take care of, will be spilled into the collective consciousness. And if they reject it, they suffer. They need to accept it and work with it in order to attain transformation so they can stay in the high energy. So we go from 3D to 5D. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Wow.
Completely.
I hope that made sense to everyone, because that's a lot of information and it can be very, very beneficial. So, final steps in going into 2021 to make it the most amazing year possible. What do you think, Julian?
I think that's a lot of pressure. See, let go of the expectations. Because now you have an expectation, it needs to be an amazing year. What does that create? A fear of it not being an amazing year. Let it be whatever it needs to be to bring you to a higher state of being. Stop limiting it by having expectations about it. How about, again, and this is my hint that I gave before, doubt the very fabric of this experience. Doubt it. Doubt that what you experience is matter. It's a holographic experience. Speak to a quantum physicist, they'll blow your mind. They know it's a holographic experience. They can describe it to you mathematically.
So I would think then that you just go through the year and it is what it is to you.
It's what it is.
So if it's amazing, so in my opinion, it's going to be amazing regardless. That is how I'm going to feel about it. Whatever happens is my point.
But as long as you realize that you are amazing, your year will be amazing.
But before we
It's about
started,
realizing that you're amazing.
before we went into 2020, nobody knew what was going to happen. Everybody went through.
Exactly.
So now we know what we are in with the deal. We need to deal with the shit. So let's continue dealing with the shit and make a best of the shit. Right?
Exactly.
Here's the thing. That is what alchemy is. Alchemy is not turning lead into gold. It's turning dark energy into higher vibrational energy.
Yes.
And that is the yogic process, the mystical process, is to do the shadow work, to transform the old energies so you can rebuild yourself anew in a higher state of consciousness. And this is what we're all being asked to do, to own up, to take responsibility, to stop avoiding, and to allow the very moment that you're currently having, and stop blaming the human.
Yes.
Accept the human. Don't make the human feel guilty and ashamed. Accept the human, and then you are ready to be inspired, because you're humble enough to say, me, the human, I can't figure it out. Let my soul talk to me. Let my soul come in with its energy, change me during meditation, change my nervous system, open my chakras, open up the bandwidth so I can be intuitive and psychic and receive the answers. Instead of fumbling around in the dark and being proud and saying, well, I got to figure it out, right?
Right. So I'm going to put here where everybody can find Julian.
That's right. And I think
You
you
put a lot
hit
of German in there. That's hard for people.
Type it exactly the way you see it.
I'm saying, people, you can stop at the .de. Don't use the slash and everything after that.
Julian -Polzen.de. Is that what we're saying? That's the one?
That's enough.
Okay.
That's it.
So if you're looking for more interesting words and inspiration from Julian, then you know where to find him. And of course, you can watch our previous episodes. What is this, your 4th time as a guest on Hot Topics, Julian?
Time, right?
You're quite a regular on this show.
Yeah, I'm kind of feel there's a couch with my name on it.
Well, we just love being in your energy and just hearing what you have to share, and hopefully it touches people. I'm sure that it will connect with whom it's meant to.
Exactly.
We go by the flow.
That's right. And you have given us so much wonderful insight and wisdom so that we can go into 2021 in the present moment and pursue our highest excitement and be joyful.
Oh, someone just quoted Bashar.
I think I messed it up.
What's going on over there, Gloria? What are you
I messed it up.
Gloria's too excited.
You know what we could do? We can just put it in the show description.
I already did. They're already there.
Well, it's there. So no worries. You can find Julian if you want to find Julian. You can always
Julia posting right there.
You can always message us on Hot Topics, like so many other people do, and we can point you in the right direction. You'll get an automated response from us. And then if you still want more information after that, then one of us will reach out to you personally and help you. But it has to be legit. It has to be legit. Again, we don't like anything pornographic in our messages. Please refrain from doing that.
But with the bullshit, we will cut it right away.
So if you really want to reach Julian or any of our guests or us, send us a message to our Hot Topics inbox and we will get back to you.
If you want to reach an enlightenment, or you want to know how to get in an enlightenment, if you want to know how to work your shadows, if you want to know how to deal with your traumas, Julian Posing is the person. He's been helping Kia and me for a long time. And
now we hang out.
And it's fantastic. So, and help me a lot with my own stuff. And I really recommend you highly with Julian Posing if you have any issue that you want to fix.
One tip, don't come with bullshit.
Nope.
Just saying.
Yes.
Well, you can come with bullshit, but as I pointed out, it would be very helpful for you if you accept it.
That.
Right. Right. And if you really want to be serious about you growing, about spirituality, and about growing in enlightenment, Julian Posey will help you. Like he said, he will see if you are ready to be one of those too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to want it. That's important.
Exactly.
You need to want it. You can't fake it. Can't fake it until you make it. You can't hustle that.
Does anybody do that anymore? Is that still a thing? Fake it till you make it.
No, it's just not possible, because you see, you can hide something from people, but you cannot hide you cannot hide anything from someone who can read your mind, your emotions, and knows your past lives.
The body will describe you right away. Your body will tell the other person that you're not real, that you're fake.
Right. And every time you get negativity is when you're fake.
Yeah.
What did they say? Your energy speaks for you before you come into the room. Your energy enters first, right?
Yes.
And energy doesn't lie. No. You can change your body language. You can lie. You can try to manipulate. And it works with people in an ego state because they can't sense energy. They're not aware of it. But someone who is aware of energy, you can't fool them. And there are many who have tried to fool enlightened masters. Yeah. And well, it's often not pretty because
Traumas.
they get it mirrored back. It's going to be very uncomfortable when they suddenly see their own reflection, and they will try to pretend it's the teacher, but it's not the teacher, because the teacher is clear. That's why the reflection is so clear. And if you try to fool a teacher, you're going to feel it as a negativity within yourself because you're not being authentic. But we got to be compassionate, because many people are not inauthentic because they want to be inauthentic. They have forgotten how to be authentic because of trauma and programming.
Exactly.
So it's very important to be patient with people, to show them the mirror, but to not blame them, because what they will do, they will shut down. They will disassociate or become defensive. So we need to have compassion when we mirror people's consciousness back to them, because it's going to be painful nonetheless to have that mirror, right?
I totally get it, that one.
All right, Julian. Well, it has been so lovely to connect with you again, as it always is. And thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with all of us.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so
Thank
much to
you
be in
for
Hot Topics.
listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving the space. Thank you for being open-minded and having open hearts. And thank you for taking the difficult road, which is actually the easy road. The easy road is the hard. You're going to figure that out at some point.
So
All right,
we know you're not gonna be. This is not gonna be the last time for you to be here, because we're gonna keep talking about this. And when we start with the auto project, that we can talk uncensored, then we can go deeper on that.
I can't wait for that.
Oh, I can't imagine the questions.
Oh, you're in for it, Julian. You are in for it. I am going to tell you right. I'm going in. Okay, so get ready.
All right.
Okay, my dear, thank you so much. Okay, my dear, thank you so much to be in Hot Topics today.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was a long episode today, but it was necessary.
It was necessary. The first
Yes.
episode back, our last episode was a long one too.
Yeah.
So our first episode back is a long one as well. And I hope everyone really enjoyed it, because he's really insightful and so helpful.
Yes. We are here just to bring like the most positive way for you to feel better in these times, because I know a lot of people is going through a rough moment. They don't know how to deal with emotions. And I know that you are right now maybe facing other stuff, like maybe more physical, more like what to do, how to pay stuff. They don't have a job, and this and this and that. And if you don't have that, and on top of that, you have your baggage and your issues and stuff, everything is going to collapse, and you're going to be in such a big trouble, not know what to do.
A horrible state, like emotionally, everything going on. It's like a shitstorm. You feel like you're in a shitstorm. And we got that because we've been there, right? So the point is, we want to help. That's why we do it. That's why we come live every week, twice a week, because we want to help. And we always set an intention that our message reaches who it's meant for, and it helps them. So if that was you today, we hear you, we feel you, and we're happy that we could help.
And we didn't put the disclaimers of our show today, but we're going to put it at the end. Every episode, it could be listened for 18, but sometimes not, because the language is sometimes very deep, and sometimes we probably don't understand, and sometimes some bad words that we use here and there, like when we speak normally, also is not appropriate for less than 18. So I want to point that to you too.
Right. So sorry if you didn't click off, and you should have. But I think this was an okay episode.
Yeah,
right?
But when you say shit and when you say bad things,
True. Okay. So and also, the opinions of our guests, including Julian, do not always reflect our own, but we feel that they have every single right to say it, and we will always give them space to do that.
We did everything backwards in this show today. I'm ready to start again. What's next?
You have another chance tomorrow night.
Right.
When we'll be back, when it's just us girls, And we
Yes.
don't know what we're going to say or do or what is going to come up, but we're just going to hang out with you guys tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow night. Yes.
Just us.
And if you're gonna be there, ask questions to us. We will answer anything you want in the life and whatever we answer, right?
Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Pacific. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Well, of course, my love. I'm Kia Baker, as you may know, and I'm the host of the Female Veterans Podcast and Women Warrior Stories and Success Coach at London Real Academy. And remember to set your notifications so that you know when we come live, because you might not have known we were coming live today. And you can follow us on Instagram at Hot Topics the Podcast. You can follow me personally at Kiativity. That's Kia Tivity, like positivity, and at Gloria Gold 1111. Hi,
Yeah.
Anna. Ay, mi amor.
Yeah.
Te quiero mucho.
Yo también te quiero mucho.
Oh, our little sister in Mexico. I can't wait till you come back.
I have a news for you, but I cannot say in public, in private,
Ooh,
about her.
Oh, okay. So I'm excited to hear that, and we can't wait for you to come back. Anna, love you, girl. And so also, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. We got like some subscribers, and we haven't been promoting our YouTube channel. So go find Hot Topics Live on YouTube and click subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified for when we come live. If you prefer to watch us on YouTube, we're going to start promoting that channel this year. Well, we love you guys. And I'm joined, as always, by the most spectacular woman on the planet.
That was a good one. Thank you so much, my dear. What an honor is that. Well, like she said, I'm Gloria Goldberg, the founder of the podcast Unbreakable Life with Glory, where I talk about depression, anxiety, PTSD, in a natural way, in a holistic way, to always make you feel better. And also the founder and the host of the bilingual show, The Gloria, where I talk about also about depression, anxiety, PTSD, also in a natural way, also in holistic way to always make you feel better. And one Friday in Spanish, one Friday in English. This Friday, I probably will have 2 episodes back to back. I have one confirmed that's in Spanish that with Pilar Lozano, I think it is. And we're gonna talk about again La Loca de la Casa, means the crazy of the house, but now what's going on now, because I bring her before and we was talking about people getting like a little desperate of the situation. Now in Colombia the situation is worse, so she's coming on Friday to tell us what's going on. Yes, so we're gonna talk about that.
Fever.
Yes. So, and my other guess, I'm waiting to confirm, but it's gonna be fantastic too.
Ooh, let me know, because if my voice lessons are done, I will tune in and support the show.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much. Always remember to subscribe, like, and if you watch the replay, please hashtag replay and tell us where you are watching us. And remember that we are here to help you to move forward, to help you to feel better. And if you, the only way for us to continue is for you to like us, spread the word, and subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. Bye-bye.